With
Good.
that, we go ahead and get started. This is Scott, the CEO of Mito Red Light. And as the demand for this advanced red light therapy devices grow, we're excited to learn more from you, Scott. So take it away.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm going to share my screen and start with a little slideshow. I thought that I would start by, well, first introducing myself. So my name is Scott Chiavari. I'm the founder and CEO of Mito Red Light. I have a varied background. I studied psychology at Cornell, got an MBA, worked in corporate finance for about 15, 16 years. But got really interested in light and health. And so in 2018, I started Mito Red, and it's been an amazing ride. And we're really proud of the company we built. So we're thankful for the opportunity to kind of share what we're doing and also talk a little bit about light and health today. And I did put, if you're curious, you can look me up on LinkedIn and learn more about my background. So I thought I'd give a quick overview of red light therapy, or it's also called photobiomodulation. It's a big word. It's very simple. It just means using light to stimulate a biological effect. So there are a lot of examples of this. Ultraviolet light, folks are usually familiar with UV light and vitamin D synthesis. We know how important that is. Blue light, folks are usually aware of the blue light, its impacts on circadian rhythms. So now we have a lot of blue light blocking glasses, and we have night shift or night mode on our smartphones. That's another example of specific wavelengths of light having specific biological effects. And then of course red and near infrared light. So red light between 600 and 700 nanometers, and near infrared light typically is defined between 700 and 1100 nanometers, nanometers being the wavelength. And it's known that red and near infrared light have many positive biological effects, which we'll talk about. And there is a lot of science. There are over 7,000 studies and counting that have been done on photobiomodulation. I have a link to a document there if anyone's curious. You do a deep dive into the science. Here's another look at the different parts of the solar spectrum. I really like this graph. I think it tells a very interesting story in that the light we get from the sun is broken up into ultraviolet light, visible light, and infrared light. But only 7% is ultraviolet, only 39% is visible, and actually more than half, 54%, is infrared. So I would ask that you kind of keep that factoid in the back of your mind as we go through the discussion today. Okay, so that's kind of the overview of the different parts of the spectrum and photobiomodulation. So when people are curious and they ask, well, how exactly does it work? How do red and near infrared light affect the body? And there are two elements to this. One element is just that there are longer wavelengths, and so that they're able to penetrate deeper into the body to be able to have an effect. So the shorter wavelengths, ultraviolet, even the blues and greens and the visible, they're short wavelength, they just don't penetrate that deep in the body. But the red, 600 nanometer up to 1100 nanometer near infrared, longer wavelength, they're able to penetrate deeper into the body and act on the tissues. That's the one important point to understand. And the second important point to understand is that how does it work once it's acting on the body? It's helping the body make energy. Essentially, it's helping the mitochondria, which are the power plants of the cell, make cellular energy, or ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is essentially cellular energy. So there's a lot of complex molecular mechanisms that are involved with this, but the nuts and bolts is that if a cell has mitochondria, then in theory it can benefit from being exposed to red and near infrared light, because the red and near infrared light hit the mitochondria, they increase energy production and essentially help the cell function better. And so that's why you'll see a lot of, when you dive into the science, you'll see so many different applications that are being studied. Because again, if a cell has mitochondria, which pretty much every cell in the body does except for red blood cells, then there's potential for that cell to benefit from being exposed to red and near infrared light. That's a cool little picture of a mitochondria. Okay, and so that is the micro story, and I like to tell the macro story too about why is red light therapy needed for modern humans. So again, we talked about the micro, which is how the light is acting on the cells in the mitochondria to make energy. But there's an overarching macro story about just how our modern humans live that I like to cover very quickly. So we like to say that modern humans are mal-illuminated, similar to being malnourished, because we spend the vast majority of our time indoors. So this is a study that was done in 2001, so over 20 years ago, and they came to the conclusion that we're spending about 93% of our time indoors. So 87%, 87% of the time we're in some sort of building, and about 6% of the time we're in some sort of motor vehicle, bus, subway, car, and we're just not outside. And so why is that an issue? Well, if you look at the graphs to the right, you see kind of the spectrum of light that we were exposed to throughout human evolution from sunlight, very broad spectrum, all the way from ultraviolet visible into near infrared. And the indoor lighting that we're exposed to, specifically since the 60s and then in the 80s with the advent of CFLs and LEDs, we're just lacking in certain parts of the spectrum, like chronically lacking. Specifically red and near infrared, but also like with the case of LEDs, we're actually lacking cyan, which is an interesting product development track for us. We're thinking about how to develop an ambient light product that adds that back in, so it's more similar to the sun, and also potentially adding near infrared in as well, because we're lacking that from being inside. So the nuts and bolts of it is that we're spending all of our time indoors, and when we are indoors, we're essentially exposed to what I call junk light. It's not the full spectrum light that we'd be getting from the sun, and it's also much dimmer. The irradiance is much lower, so just the total amount of light energy is much lower. So here's another kind of quick graph which tells that story about how our exposure to near infrared radiation has drastically decreased just over the last 200 years. And if you believe, as I do, that near infrared is super important and super beneficial, and you see a graph like this, then I'm hoping that you might come to the same conclusion that I've come to, that like, hey, maybe adding a little bit of that back in is a good idea. And so I really like this graph. And this is a paper published in 2019 by Russell Ryder. It does a deep dive into near infrared and all of the benefits. I highly recommend reading it if you're into reading scientific papers. Okay, so that's kind of the overarching story. So the good news is that well-made LED devices allow us to supplement red and near infrared light in a safe and efficient manner, and that's where companies like Mito come into play. And we're very proud of the company that we've built over the past 6 years. We're an industry leader in the space. We have over 70,000 lifetime static customers. We have a lot of unique aspects to our business with how we do things, third-party validation. We have a lot of professional athletes that use our products and swear by them. Safety is super important to us, so we have certifications for electrical safety. We are trying to innovate in the space. We've got multiple patents pending on various products, one of which I'll show shortly. We've developed an app, which it's not just an app for the sake of an app. You actually can use it to control a device, and you can actually track your data and give feedback and try to get a sense for what works best for you. We have the widest selection of any products in the space, although I have some of my favorites, and again, I'm going to show one of those in a moment. And we pride ourselves in customer service and really a true no risk, no hassle return policy. Try it. If you don't love it, please send it back. We don't want a single non-ecstatic customer. So getting into the products, one of my my personal favorite product is red light therapy panels, because I do feel that panels are the most versatile, durable, and frankly powerful way to get red and near infrared light into your life. So we have a lot of different panel series. I have the Mito Pro X here, and they come in various different sizes. So for example, this is a tabletop. This is the Mito Pro 300X, and this is one of our top sellers. Now, got 6 different wavelengths of red and near infrared light. Very intuitive interface, very easy to use. and very good for, the face and the décolleté, which is actually a term that I learned from a customer way back when. I had never heard that term before. For getting red light for rejuvenating the skin. And okay, now I'm at show and tell, so let me stop the share here. And so I do have one of our panels behind us. Again, this is the Mito Pro 1500X. It's quite big, so it's very difficult to get into the frame, but it's 43 inches tall. Touchscreen interface. And you can see it's quite bright. And so normally I would rock my my cool shades here if I was facing the light, but with it behind me, it's fine. And so this is really our flagship product. Again, 6 wavelengths of red and near infrared, so we get this breadth of coverage in what I consider to be the optimal part of the optical window, which is 600 nanometers to 900 nanometers. Touchscreen interface. You got brightness control. You can adjust the brightness up and down. You can disable the Bluetooth if you don't want to be exposed to the EMF. A lot of our customers are very health conscious, and they don't want exposure to electromagnetic fields. They can avoid it, so the Bluetooth can be disabled. Again, the dimming, I can dim down. So I just dim down the red. I don't know if you can see the near infrared on, because near infrared is invisible, but sometimes the camera will pick it up. And we've got an alarm function too. So we're trying to make it easy and fun to integrate into your daily life. So there's an alarm function. So if you don't want to wake up to the loud alarm clock and you'd rather be woken up by the nice soft glow of red light, you can put a Pro 300X on your nightstand, set it to, at 7:30 a.m. and it'll come on and it'll gently wake you up, kind of like how nature is designed to wake you up, now with like a siren. So that's really the product as a whole. One of the reasons why we really like the panels, as I figure out how to turn this off, is it allows you to, something like this, 43 inches tall, is really great for hanging on the back of a door, like in the bedroom, just illuminating as much of the body as you can. I'm a big fan of that. And I think you can accomplish the same thing with something like this, just doing kind of section by section, but you just have to invest a lot more time. And so when people ask for my recommendation on what to get, I say, well, get the largest device that your budget will allow, so that you really can illuminate as much of the body as you can and just be efficient with how you leverage time. I mean, again, our top seller is the tabletops, because a lot of folks are interested in the skin benefits, and so that's very easy to use. But I would say you're missing out on some of the other systemic benefits that you might be able to realize by just not shining it on more part of your body. So we really like this unit because it is unique in the 43 inches height. It's really great for like at the home. It's also, we have it in a boot stand here with wheels. You can wheel it around, and it just makes it easy to use if you want to bring it out as part of like a morning routine, stretching routine, or yoga. And then, you could wheel it back in the closet if you've got limited space, that type of thing.
Love that. Scott, we've got a question. If you could talk more to the systemic benefits.
Sure. So how I think about it is, again, so red and near infrared light are beneficial. And to the extent that you can shine it on more cells in your body, then you're more likely that there will be a systemic benefit. I will say that, some of the feedback that I've gotten has even surprised me, so one of the most common pieces of feedback we get is better sleep. And so when I originally started this, I mean, I read some papers. There's a paper, and I think we have it on our site. These Chinese female basketball players of all interesting cohort, and they did full body red light irradiation, and they noticed like improved sleep scores and increase in serum melatonin and all sorts of, and improved recovery. Like these were professional athletes, and so that was really fascinating. And when I read that study, and I was thinking, well, you probably need, for sleep, you probably want to illuminate the whole body. But we get anecdotal feedback from people using the tabletop that even just shining it on the head, that they're noticing that they're sleeping better, which I frankly find to be kind of amazing, because I wouldn't have thought that would be the case. But generally speaking, I just personally, I use a red light bed, and then at home I use I'm very blessed. I'm in a red light therapy business, so I have a large panel set up front and back sandwich where I'm able to illuminate the whole body because I want every cell in my body that I can to be exposed to the light and potentially benefit. And I do think that our ancestors were outside in the sun all day and they're, and, you know, not a lot of clothes on, and they were bathing in these wavelengths all day long. And so to the extent that we're not getting that anymore and we want to try and supplement it back, I do think, again, trying to shine on that as much of the body as you can makes sense. But you know, you do start where you can. If you start with a tabletop, you know, and maybe you can add on, or you can, again, you can accomplish the same thing by just shining it on different parts of your body, but you just have to invest a lot more time doing it.
That's great. There's another a couple comments and more questions here that I'm just going to read aloud. Oh, setting it to an alarm is a really ingenious feature. So it looks like this panel offers both NIR and red light therapy settings. Is that correct?
It does, and actually, it's one of the things I kind of skipped over, but it's a unique design where we have a red and a near infrared chip under each lens, and so you can make the entire face red. I can probably show that. It's kind of hard to see, or you can make the entire face near infrared. It's kind of hard to tell, but that's red only, and it's the entire face. You can also make the entire face near infrared. It's a unique feature. Typically in these devices, wow, that was weird. In these devices, it's one red chip under a lens, and then the neighboring lens has a near infrared chip, and it's kind of checkerboard style. But we call this true dual chip. So you can, again, and get much better coverage and much better irradiance so it has twice as many chips though, so it's a little bit more expensive to make, but it's a superior product.
And then how long is each treatment session and how many days a week should it be used for anti-aging or systemic benefits?
So we're still figuring out like all of those details and gathering data. The general guidance we give is about 10-minute sessions is good. You know, so we have our lights professionally tested, and so we know the joules the joules is a measurement of watts per second. And so there's terms that we use in the industry. It's irradiance is essentially the power, and the joules is just the power per unit time. And so you want roughly between 5 and 50 joules for most use cases. Like the eyes is kind of a sensitive subject. We do recommend wearing the goggles, but the eye studies that are done, I mean, the eyes are super sensitive to light, so it's usually only like 5 joules, which would be equivalent to like a minute or 2 minutes in front of our light. And but you know, for like a deep tissue or an acute issue like an injury, maybe you'd want up to 50 joules. And so that equates to roughly 2 minutes to 20 minutes. The devices are very mindfully designed to kind of be able to give you that range in a safe manner, but in a reasonable amount of time. So 10 minutes is kind of right in the middle of that range that the literature suggests is, you know, the total dose that you want. So we suggest around 10 minutes for kind of like routine maintenance, if you will. And then we do recommend taking at least a day off a week. I personally go 5 days on, 2 days off. And the kind of the rationale there is that some of the studies show that there's benefits that last beyond 24 hours. And so there's this idea that if you use it every day, you want kind of the Goldilocks dose. And so you could, if you have a benefit that lasts longer than 24 hours and then you use it again, you can see that you might eventually run into an inhibition zone or disinhibition zone, where you know the benefits either stop or decrease. So so to avoid that, we just suggest taking at least 1 day off a week. But I've seen studies where as little as once a week or 3 times a week, they're seeing benefit. Should probably clarify that the studies are not on our light specifically. I'm talking generally about red and near infrared light. We've done a small product study. And I think clinical trials are very expensive and on the roadmap. But generally speaking, I think around 5 times a week and 10 minutes is going to be good for most people.
Great. And then other than the goggles, as you did mention, are there any safety precautions that should be taken?
So we have a very long and conservative list of contraindications, or we have a long contraindications article on our site. But the reality is, if the eyes, you want to be careful. Active cancer, for example, we just don't know, and so we just say to avoid it. Don't use the light at all. And then any sort of autoimmune issue, you should be careful because there's data suggesting it could boost the immune system. And then any sort of photosensitivity, or if you're any sort of medications that can cause photosensitivity, we would suggest being careful. But reality is that it's super safe, and especially if you start low and work your way up and acclimate, because the reality is that a lot of folks aren't used to bright light because we're inside all the time. And again, like I mentioned earlier, the irradiance of light that's out when you go outside is so much higher. I mean, I have a lot of light on in here, but if you actually measured the lux or the lumens, it's significantly lower than if I just step right outside. And so I think that part of it is some people can be sensitive in the beginning just because they're not used to being exposed to bright light because they're inside all the time. So if you work your way up, I mean, it's very, very rare that we have any sort of negative side effects, but everybody's different, and it's not possible for us to know everybody's like medical circumstance. So we always suggest, if you have any questions, always check with your licensed medical provider. But at the end of the day, if you start low and work your way up, high probability that you'll be fine.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. The questions has slowed down in the chat, so we'll just hold on for a couple more minutes as we are nearing the end of this presentation. And then in the meantime, I want to remind all the reporters in the room that you can request samples and press releases at mediaandmerch.com. Awesome. We'll hold on here for a couple more minutes just to see if there's any more questions. There's just a fantastic, thank you so much for answering all my questions. I would love to work with you. That was from Deeba, who is one of the largest giveaway sites, Contest Corner. So you'll definitely be connected directly to her. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that wraps it up. Again, Jay, thanks again. A lot here to look at. I believe the light, this is from Deb, I believe the light helps blood flow. Will it help arthritic knees? Another question just came through.
Potentially. So actually, we did fund a study at Northwestern, which was looking at thrombosis and just inflammation in general. It's known to have an anti-inflammatory effect, and it is known. Technically, these are classified by the FDA as infrared lamps because they put out infrared light, and that's well known to improve circulation. And so anytime you can improve circulation, you can improve the healing process. It's also known to, again, have an anti-inflammatory effect. It actually has a transient increase in reactive oxygen species, but then it has a downstream anti-inflammatory effect. So there's definitely reason. If I had arthritis, I would definitely try it and see what happens. Again, like, we haven't specifically studied our devices, so can't make any claims, but just based on the improved circulation and the downstream anti-inflammatory effect, I would be very hopeful that it would help to some degree.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. And then we have just another comment here from Nora, freelance journalist. Some of the publications include InStyle, Town and Country, Los Angeles Times, Condé Nast Traveler. Said very cool. Thank you. Awesome. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up. Thank you so much, Scott and RJ, for being here with us today. This was really enlightening and learned a lot about red light.
Awesome. Thank you for having us.
Pardon the pun.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.